What's up, sports fans? This is the Lucas Ross Sports Channel. It's time to continue my 2023 college football schedule preview / projected records for the upcoming 2023 college football season. And we continue them with the Washington Huskies. There was a schedule last year for Washington. You see the overall record for this team. Last year was 11-2 overall in the 2022 season, and 10-2 overall in the regular season. You look at who Washington played in the non-conference. They played Kent State, Portland State, and they also played Michigan State out of the Big Ten. So not too tough of a non-conference schedule. Of course, the Michigan State game, we thought that was going to be a tough game for them, but Michigan State ended up being not a good team at all this year. And of course, there were no divisions in the Pac-12 last year, so no divisions whatsoever. And now we get into pretty much, all the Pac-12 teams pretty much have a chance to win the Pac-12 pretty much, every single year now. So, but you look at the schedule and who Washington lost to. They lost back-to-back road games against UCLA and Arizona State on September the 30th and October the 8th. So, obviously, tough losses there. I mean, maybe they could have won probably the Pac-12 championship, perhaps. Like Washington only had maybe a really big shot to get in, but I guess it just came down to, the head-to-head matchups. But, of course, Washington didn't play the defending Pac-12 champion last year. That was Utah, because there were still divisions being out there still. But you look at the schedule here, and you look at who they pretty much beat on the schedule. They beat Oregon on the road. That was probably their biggest win from last year's team. So, yeah, definitely Washington had a pretty good season. Let's see what they look like in 2023. And here's the schedule for 2023 for Washington. And you look at who they play in the non-conference. They'll play Boise State and Tulsa. So 2 non-conference teams to begin the year. Or I should say 3 non-conference teams to start out the year. And then they'll play Michigan State here on the road. So, yeah, they'll get Michigan State once again. That's a rematch from last year. So, obviously going to be a big game there between the Pac-12 versus the Big Ten. But this time, this will be on the road for Washington. So, definitely going to be a tough place to play. Michigan State wasn't that good last year, but maybe this could be an interesting game this time. And, yes, there are no divisions in the Pac-12, so let's go game by game now. So, let's start with a couple of non-conference matchups here to begin at home. Boise State here at home, and then Tulsa here at home. Boise State will be a pretty tough non-conference game as well, but I think with them being at home, they'll still be big favorites perhaps. And then they'll play Michigan State here on the road on September the 16th. So yeah, Washington defeated Michigan State last year. Could be a revenge game here for Michigan State. They'll probably be fired up for this one. You never know, but it is a road game. You never know what can happen. This will probably be a tough place to play for Washington as well. And then they'll open up with Pac-12 play against Cal. They'll play this one at home. Then they'll play Arizona on the road. This could be another interesting road test here for Washington. Arizona was a decent team last year, but they weren't really that good enough. So this will be pretty much a really tough game, though. But I think, Washington will still be a favorite heading into this game. And then they'll get a bye week after playing that game. And then they'll play rival Oregon here on October the 14th. And you couldn't really ask for a better place to have a bye week here after the Arizona game. Obviously, before you're playing your rival Oregon. Good news is they get this game at home. So if they didn't have a bye week before playing this game, they would still have home field advantage. But you just never know when it comes to rival games. And, they probably wanted a bye week in this game, perhaps. So, yeah, they'll play Oregon here on October the 14th and Arizona State here on October the 21st. Revenge game here for this Washington team. Arizona State beat them last year, so Arizona State wasn't that good of a team last year, so maybe Washington will beat them this time. Good news is they get that game at home. Stanford on the road on October the 28th, and then USC here on the road on November the 4th. So you got back-to-back road games here with Stanford and USC. Stanford wasn't that good of a team last year, but obviously USC, let's talk about Stanford first. You just never know what can happen when you play on the road in college football. USC obviously going to be a game that's going to be pretty tough on the road. Pretty big matchup, though, because, pretty much almost all these Pac-12 teams, like 4 of those Pac-12 teams that I had in my top contenders list, they pretty much all returned their quarterbacks from last year. Let's start with Washington. They returned their quarterback. Oregon returns their quarterback with Bo Nix. And then USC will return Caleb Williams, obviously the reigning Heisman Trophy winner. And then Utah obviously returns Cam Rising. November the 11th, they'll play Utah here, so the defending Pac-12 champions. Washington did not play this Utah team last year, but they'll get to play them here at home this year. And then they'll play Oregon State here on November the 18th. Another game that came down to the wire last year. Oregon State looking for revenge in this game. They get this one at home, and DJ Ogilvy coming in. What is he going to be like in the transfer portal? And then they'll end things out here on November the 25th against Washington State here at home. Another rival game that can go either way, perhaps, because every time these two teams step out on the field, it's always a pretty good matchup. So that's the schedule for Washington in 2023. The non-conference schedule, not too tough. Of course, Boise State will probably be a tough one, probably. You never know, but the toughest non-conference game, obviously, is that Michigan State game, and they still got to be playing every single Pac-12 team on the schedule. So now let's get to the projection here for this Washington team, and this is the scale I've been pretty much using throughout these projections. You're not going to probably see any red games and 20% games on here. Obviously, the 1% games, these are games where Washington has just no chance of winning in. 20% games, Washington will be about a couple touchdown underdogs in. 40%, you might see the yellow games on here. These are games where Washington's going to be about a touchdown underdog. 50-50 games, these will stay in the white. Pretty much games that can go either way. 60% games, these are games where Washington's going to be favored by about a touchdown. 80%, these will be games where Washington will be favored by a couple touchdowns. And then 90% games, these are games where Washington's going to be favored by more than 3 touchdowns. So that's where we're going to start with. We're going to start with the green games, games where Washington's going to be favored by more than 3 touchdowns. And I got 2 of those games on the schedule. I got Boise State, Tulsa here. So on September the 2nd and then September the 9th. Boise State, I think, will be at 90%. Tulsa will be over 90%. So I think, Boise State will be a tough one. But if this was on the road for Washington, I would probably put it in the blue. But I'm going to stick with it and put it in the green because Washington will have home field advantage. And then Tulsa, obviously, I think they will take care of business in that one. So those are the games where I think Washington will be favored by about more than 3 touchdowns. We go to the blue games now. Games where Washington's going to be favored by about a couple touchdowns. And I got 3 of those on the schedule. I got Cal here on September the 23rd, Arizona on the road on September the 30th, and then Arizona State here on October the 21st. Cal, obviously, I don't really know what they're going to look like. Arizona could be a tough road game. That's why I got to put it in the blue. I would put it in the green if it was a home game for Washington, but I'm going to stick with it and put it in the blue. And then Arizona State here on October the 21st. This will be a home game for them, so I think Washington will be pretty much ready for revenge on this Arizona State team. Of course, they lost to them last year, so I think they will be favored by a couple touchdowns just because they're at home. So those are the games where I think Washington will be favored by about a couple touchdowns. We go to the games now where Washington's going to be favored by about a touchdown now. 60% games in the purple. So let's go with these 2 games. We got Stanford here on the road. Obviously a road game. You never know what can happen. And then Washington State. I know this is a home game for Washington. I probably should put it in the blue. But I'm going to stick with it because it's a rival game. It's a purple game. You just never know. It can go either way, perhaps. So Washington State, obviously a rival game that just can go either way. So Washington, I think, will be about a touchdown favorite heading into both of these games. Stanford on the road will be pretty tough, but I think they will still be favorites heading into that game by about a touchdown. And now let's go to the games where Washington is going to be an underdog in. Like I said, I don't have any red or orange games on this schedule, but how about the games where Washington's going to be about a touchdown underdog and the 40% in the yellow? I just got 1 game on that schedule, and that's USC on the road. I think they will be an underdog in this game on November the 4th. It's going to be a tough place to play. Obviously, the offense that USC has from last year, of course, bringing Caleb Williams back at quarterback, it's going to be a really tough place to play. I think Washington, I'm not saying they don't have a chance to win, and I think they do have a chance because they are a heavy underdog in this game. So I think Washington, this will pretty much be the only game that they're really an underdog in. So, like I said, I don't see any Washington games on here on the schedule that they will be about a couple touchdown underdog or maybe have no chance of it winning in. But I do got them being an underdog against USC. And pretty much the rest of their games here on the schedule, Michigan State on the road, Oregon at home, Utah at home, and then Oregon State on the road are all 50-50 games. I think all 4 of these games can go either way. So how many games do I see Washington winning out of those games? I see them winning like 2 out of those 4 games. I see them winning. You never know. They could probably lose to Michigan State. And they could probably beat Oregon and Utah at home because of home field advantage. And then they could probably also lose to Oregon State on the road. So, yeah, I think pretty much they can win 2 out of those 4 games. But you never know. They could probably lose to Oregon and Utah at home, or maybe lose all 4 of those games. So that's going to be pretty tough. But, if you look at this schedule, let's now get to the projected record for this team. If you look at this schedule, pretty much all the games that they're favored in, and also the games that are 50-50 games, and obviously that underdog game against USC, the overall projected record for this Washington team comes out to be 9-3 for 2023. So this is the projected record for this Washington team. Like I said, I think they can win 2 out of those 4 games. Either Michigan State on the road, Oregon at home. They could probably lose to Michigan State and Oregon State on the road. But you never know. It could be a switch. They could probably beat Michigan State and Oregon State on the road and possibly lose to Oregon and Utah at home. But I think that's the overall projected record for this team. So, yeah, they could probably win 8, 9, or 10 games this year. Maybe even 11 is possible. So, yeah, Washington probably will still be a contender, though, in the Pac-12. You never know because the Pac-12 is going to be wide open once again, I believe, in 2023. But that's my overall projected record for this Washington team. Again, we'll do more projections throughout this week. And stay tuned here for more sports content on the Lucas Ross Sports Channel.